Hi, my name is Matt Coyne. I'm from Waves Connects, and I've been invited onto this event advice session by Crowdcoms by Matt and Will because we've got something pretty exciting to talk about. But Matt and Will, good afternoon.
Hello, Matt.
Good
Hello, Matt.
afternoon. Yep, the mats are here. Do you know what? It's a relief, Will, isn't it, to have a pro doing this rather than one of us?
It really is actually. It's quite nice to be. This is our first Zoom one as well. This is the first one we're not in person.
Yeah, that's kind of weird in the I was going to say non-virtual world, but we've done videos about that. It's not, it's just easy. I guess it's the speed at which we wanted to talk about something, and that's where this virtual stuff comes in quite well, right?
Well, we can react to it, can't we? This is like an emergency event advice.
Yeah, oh, I like that. And so it is an emergency. And why is it an emergency? I mean, this weekend tickets went on sale for Oasis, and so it's probably on everyone's radar, even if you're not a fan of Oasis. I can't say I'm sad that I didn't get any tickets. I don't know about you two, but we can come on to that. But for those of you that maybe don't know or haven't read any social media posts or news items this week, um, the big subject in, I guess, tech and ticketing world is dynamic pricing. Maybe, guys, what is dynamic pricing?
Sh- Well, shall I? I'll give my interpretation of it, and then maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, Will. Um, it's a strategy of pricing that's influenced by, a number of variables. So I think in the context that we've been looking at, it's demand, isn't it? So there are loads of people who want these Oasis tickets. I'm a bit like you, Matt. I wasn't devastated. I was more of a Blur man, if I'm honest, but I did like Oasis. Anyway, I'm sure it's going to be an amazing gig, and it doesn't matter what we think because there's so much demand that they're able to massively inflate the pricing during the process to increase the revenue that they generated for their show. So demand is the big one, but it could also be competitor pricing. So you might be reacting from a dynamic perspective to your competitor changing their pricing or being fluid with their pricing. It can be as a reaction to markets, which are more structured and more fixed than the demand of people. So dynamic pricing is many things that control the variables around your pricing strategy. In this particular case, we're looking at the demand specific criteria.
I think you summed that up perfectly. Don't
Well,
think
and I
I.
guess, Matt, I think I saw this is how this conversation between us started, but you made a comment online that dynamic pricing is kind of in everything we do, right? You know, from booking flights to hotels to train tickets to travel, like all that kind of thing. You know, we work in events. We know how much hotels go up week to week when it's event season or something, right? So is it just something that we're used to? But why is it come to the kind of the fore with gig tickets?
It's come to the fore because of the popularity of Oasis and the buzz that's around this, but it is in every, the majority of bands are doing it. I was really interested to see that The Cure aren't. I don't know if you saw that. Someone I follow on LinkedIn was talking about the fact that Cure have said historically and now that it's a fixed price irrespective of demand. They're choosing to fix their price. But in this instance, this is the big show, isn't it? They've been, the big family dispute, and it's created this real pent up kind of desire to watch it. So it's really, really at the fore, isn't it? But look, this has been going on. Take our industry out of it. The oldest professions in the world. Let's not get into a debate on what they are because
Where are you going in that?
that's murky territory that none of us want to go
What
into.
dynamic pricing?
There would have been. Let's just put it. Let's not explore it too much. Let's not go into the detail. But in the oldest professions on the planet, whatever they might be, there would have been dynamic pricing. I think if you look at industry, the airlines probably the most famous for doing it. They set the market based on demand, type of day, time of day. Actually, now they're having to do it based on the aircraft that they're flying in their fleet because of safety records and what have you. So there's, it's not new, is it? I think the interesting bit, this is where we'd lean on you, Matt, rather than you leaning on us, and vice versa, is how's it going to affect our industry, and how can people, is it morally acceptable to use these kind of tools and strategies to affect revenue in our events that we support for our clients? And the other thing is, for me, really trying to explore the morality of it, and you know what steps need to be taken to level out the perceived fairness and the experience for the people that are going through the process of looking to make a purchase and whatever that might be.
I think that's the difference in this story between airlines and hotels and this Oasis debacle, which, you know, hasn't come around much before. I mean, I know people don't really like Ticketmaster. They don't like using it that much to get their tickets, but, you know, hotels and flights, if you're clever enough to use an incognito browser, you know you might be able to kind of get round it, but they're upfront about the price. The price is the price when you get there, apart from add-ons and things like that when you're looking at EasyJet. But this one was very much a surprise when you got to the basket. You know, they thought, you know, all the customers thought it was 150 quid until, you know, they'd gone through, they filled the form out, they wanted the tickets, how many tickets they wanted. They go to the basket, and all of a sudden it's a different price when you get there.
So are you saying then that if they knew it was pricing from £150, does that change the nature of it? Like, or do you not set a price for your concert?
Or do you
not set a price for your event? Do you just say you have to click on and search for your price, and in that moment you're given it?
But I guess, I mean, there's two things there, right? Because you can also set a maximum price. You know, it's like if you go to a theater and book whatever seats, you can choose based on a price bracket where your seats will be. So you know you're going to be in the gods, or if you're down, you know, in the pit amongst it. So is it just prices are going to be between 150 and £500 or whatever it might be? But it's also like if you think of it in, I guess, trade show, B2B conference type world, people tend to budget stuff. So if you have a high ticket conference that needs to be in someone's budget allocation of what they're doing that year, there needs to be a certain element of transparency so that you can get the right attendees or exhibitors or whatnot in that show, right?
Would they have sold out if they just said tickets are £550? And in my opinion, they would have done. They would have sold out every venue that they did by saying the ticket was £550. So have they lost money through this dynamic pricing approach? Yes. I think commercially they've lost money. They would have sold out. The thing that I find more unattractive around pricing in our sector is touts buying a monopoly of tickets, like buying 30, 40, 50, 100 tickets, and then selling them at 10 times the market value. I'm not angry at Oasis trying to maximize the revenue for their shows. I'm angry if Oasis don't benefit from doing their show.
Yeah.
That's what makes me angry. Middlemen making money from other people's effort.
I think no one's sorry, mate. I think no one's the ticket platform that nails that will take over, I would say. They are going to, you know, they will have a big monopoly if they can get that right, because people buying lots of tickets to resell is probably the biggest problem. You know, yes, there's transparency over pricing and things like that, but it's the touts that people don't like, you know, reselling because they will be on the market now for 1,500, you know, £1,000 and things like that. I think if someone can do that right, then we're in a great place.
So I guess the thing that I don't quite like about this, we're going to talk a bit more about the experience, and I know you touched on it before, Will, but it's the thing that I don't quite like. I mean, prices already seem high, and it's like, I don't know if that's the Taylor Swift economy that's kind of just put prices for things like this out of range for a lot of people. But I think then we talk so much in the events industry about these experiences and delivering these great experiences and all that kind of stuff. This dynamic pricing, I mean, does it affect the fan experience? Because they're going, so, you know, stoked that you're going to the gig maybe, but is your experience totally tainted by how this pricing's done? What's your sort of thoughts on that? Is it fair?
It's definitely not fair. I think probably, you know, when you get to the basket and you've got that decision to make where you might have had 150 quid in your pocket for these tickets of, you know, a trip of a lifetime. And well, I don't think it's a trip of a lifetime, but, you know, Oasis fans would do. And then you get to the basket and all of a sudden you've got to make a decision between £300 and £1,000. You might be putting that on a credit card. We might be talking about, if you leave the queue, that's it, you're done. You've just been in the queue from 8 a.m. this morning trying to get these tickets. They've kind of got you over a barrel and they are going to make you spend that money. And I think coming away from that is I, there are the conversation about whether the prices of anything is fair is a big old subject, isn't it? I think probably.
This this is the thing. It's like I wouldn't have been able to justify the cost of those tickets. Okay, so there's no way I would have done it, and it's partly prioritizing and partly because they just would have been too expensive for me to do. I wouldn't have been able to afford to do it. But you go to the supermarket, you choose what you can afford and what you can't afford. If I can't afford Heinz beans, I'm going to choose. Well, I don't actually love Heinz beans. I would have probably chosen a different variety, a cheaper
Aldi's
variety.
best.
If you can't afford Oasis, go and watch No Oasis, the tribute band. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's prices. The complex thing for me is the thing that's difficult for me to get my head around is you look at football tickets skyrocketed and they affect who can watch the game. So you don't get true fans. You get the corporates, the business people, the bankers. They're not dragging bankers into this. The people that can afford those season tickets. And it completely changes the dynamic of the experience because you've got people that it's not in their blood. They're not true supporters of that football team.
Like diehard fans.
Yeah, they're not diehard fans, and it changes the environment, the atmosphere, and it leads to such disparity of environment and atmosphere at a sporting ground. You go to Newcastle and you watch a game of football compared to going to the Emirates. It's chalk and cheese. It's going to be the same for these concerts potentially. You'll have people not that diehard loved Oasis and want to go there and celebrate the fact that this reunion is massive to them, but you've just got people that can afford it, and that changes the whole perspective of it for me. Whether it's right or wrong, the morality of it has almost, it sounds quite depressing, become insignificant.
Yeah.
Am I being, there's a bit of me I don't want to stick up for Oasis or their management team or whatever, but there's a bit of me that thinks perhaps they've signed that contract with Ticketmaster and not really looked at the small print of dynamic pricing. Because I've seen tweets from them all week saying the price will be £150. It will not be more than that, and any more than that will be cancelled. The tickets will be cancelled, and you won't be able to go. That adds another layer of confusion because if the band are now saying they are going to be a price, and if you buy them at higher price, they might be cancelled. That's an extra layer of anxiety for the fans who actually really want to go and buy those tickets. So I might be a little like a clerical error that they didn't even know it was going to happen. But they've been silent afterwards so far the last few days.
Well,
Yeah, it's interesting because it's who's responsible for setting the price, right? Because Ticketmaster have said it's the band promoter, and you guys will know in the events that you deliver, it's your client that inputs the price and value of the ticket. They'll have their fees and stuff, which you could always argue if they're too much or too little or whatever. It's not really this conversation, but it's like it would be the promoter, the whatever. And one could assume that the organizer would be hot on those details because someone that would be promoting Oasis has probably promoted other events and gigs before.
yeah, the management team will be the ones that are likely to be driving this, and the band will probably be just trusting of the financial and commercial arrangements because they're going to be incredibly busy doing their thing, which is focused on this tour.
I mean, we've all been in the events industry long enough to kind of imagine the sorts of conversations that are going on within that management team now after this balls up, for want of a better phrase. And I can imagine.
Yeah. Is it a balls up? You can't tell, can you?
Well, maybe there's another question because obviously dynamic pricing for tickets like this is, like we said, sort of come to the fore. But is it the difference between who sets the price or how the technology or algorithms are developed to allow it to happen? If that makes sense.
That's a good point because I think if I was going to like analyze what they've done from a UX and sort of a build point of view, what I think they're doing is rather than checking demand when somebody gets into the queue. So it's a very, very complicated thing that they're trying to do, obviously. And there's obviously the load that the amount of people that are going to be trying to get onto that site and who are queuing. Then there's the race conditions for who gets the next space first, who was there first, and all that complicated stuff. But it seems to me that they're doing some sort of API check just before the basket. So they're making sure someone gets all the way through the process of filling in their details, making sure which seats they're gonna select, which tickets they're gonna select, how many they want. They've got all those details there. Once they get to the confirmation step, they hit the button to go to the bar, put it in their basket, and then they're checking the demand at that point. And then it's going, wow, there's a hell of a lot of demand for these tickets. They should be £400 rather than all the way through. You've gone 150, 150, 150. And then they check at that point rather than when you first get into the queue. It's probably because they're assuming there'll be a drop-off rate. Once you get to the first stage of the form, they'll think, right, a lot of these people won't actually get to the basket. They won't put tickets in a basket. They'll abandon it. So we don't want to check early. We'll check right at the end when we know they're definitely going to buy a ticket. So
that's the bit that I struggle with, because there were people in the office. I came in Saturday to just catch up with some bits and pieces in here, and there were a couple of people who'd come to the office to sit there with reliable internet for hours and hours and hours. Now, these are hours and hours and hours that they are not with their children, they are not with their wives, and they don't know the price. And time is limit. Time's a commodity, isn't it?
But is that not the other challenge? It was whatever they said, was it 150,000 people, I think, in these queues? Yeah. And it's like, I don't know how many tickets they actually sold. I realize I don't have that stat in front of me, so we can find that in a second. But 150,000 people in this queue, let's say there was 10,000 tickets for the various gigs across the country. It still means that 140,000 people will never get them. So you can understand there's like a percentage on top of that, right? That it's like, well, these 1,000 people will drop off when they see the pricing. But like, why make someone who's 149,999 sat in the queue even think that they might get a chance of getting through the ticket? Like, is there a period that you should just go, do you know what? Once we get to 20,000, we're just going to slice you off and that's it.
Then you have to, all right, there's other ways to look at it. I'm online, I'm trying to buy a ticket. I'm told to wait. Is that because the system can't cope with the demand of purchasing the ticket? Is it actually to do with, it's the system trying to catch up, isn't it? Or is it to do with the request management? So it's just a holding slide. There's loads of things that perhaps you just can't process that many in a certain time.
Well, I think what would be really good is next time to have an Oasis fan on, because they might just go, yeah, whatever, I got tickets.
I was an Oasis fan. The first couple of albums I thought were absolutely amazing. But I remember going to swimming at Mottcombe and us all singing to Oasis on the bus. So I think to say we weren't Oasis fans is we were. Was I wishing to get tickets now at that price? No. But fan, they were absolutely brilliant, and I bet it would be a great gig as well.
So the next part I want to ask about is the kind of government's getting involved. There's definitely been some of those headlines, and I'm sure many of us in the events industry will shudder a little bit when the government says they're getting involved again, because last time we got shut down for a while, didn't we? But we're not diving into that. But so it's clearly got the attention of government. I think I've got a quote here from the Culture Secretary, Lisa Nandy, who says it was depressing that fans had to pay double what they're expecting and such like. And previous governments are bringing protections to stop people being ripped off by touts. This isn't really a touts discussion. It's about on demand. But this weekend, they said, after the return of Oasis, as it were, it's depressing to see the vastly inflated prices excluding ordinary fans from having a chance to enjoy their favorite band live. And it kind of then goes on to, should live music be accessible to everyone? So there's a couple of questions here of should live music be accessible to everyone? I think, Matt, you've spoken about that a little bit already. But maybe, Will, if the government gets involved as a product designer, like, you lead the development team at Crowdcoms, what's scaring you about that when the government says we're going to look at this? Because it could, although you guys don't necessarily do dynamic pricing, there could be a knock-on effect for ticketing and registration in the form that you guys do. So what do you look for in that when it comes to product?
My Yeah, call me skeptical, but I would say probably a lot of the things that will come out of government will be red tape and can be hidden away in different, we've done it all with the EU, with cookie policies, with all sorts of legislation that you have to do X, Y, and Z. And as designers and developers, we are kind of skilled in the art of doing the bare minimum when it's a something that's being enforced upon us. So if I'm imagining that if the government said you have to make it clear when you're using dynamic pricing, that will be a little label somewhere that can be missed. And we all know from user experience research and things like that, people don't read stuff. They look at the things that they want to look at, the big, very important information. What's the price? Am I buying the right ticket? Stick it in my basket, get going. I want to get out of here as soon as possible. And if it's dynamic pricing, it will just be somewhere as a little label.
What would be wrong with enforcing that they give a predictive price at any given point in your queue? That for me, could any of us really protest against someone enforcing that morally? That when you're waiting for something, you have some indication of the cost. You're 45th thousandth in the queue. Current pricing we predict to be between £300 and £500. Pricing may fluctuate. Oh, that, and also the last time we talk about cookies, Will, we still have a robust cookie policy on our webinar platform. We're the only ones. I haven't seen any of our competitors giving two jots about how they accept and allow cookies on what is a easily accessible. So I think we're the exception on that regard. But people, like you say, will find loopholes. But in this instance, I hope they should enforce something that gives visibility, and then they should keep out of it. People should be able to choose to do what they want, price something as they want, but based upon what value they put on it, because it's their product. Whether people choose to buy it is up to the end user.
That's up to
They
them.
should be informed of what the approximate pricing is of what they're trying to purchase.
Yeah.
And they do it on lots of other things, so they should be able to do it. Seems to be the last sort of area that has not really got it quite right. Football matches have very high demand. They have lots of different ticket prices. They seem to be able to tell you as soon as you land on the site what tickets are left, at what price. So it's from this price. There might be one or two tickets left at that price. So they'll always show you the lowest price, but there might be some more expensive tickets left as well. So they seem to.
It's a more suitable example to what we do, isn't it? You look at the membership associations; they operate like the football clubs. I'm a member of Southampton fan club, but not a season club member. So they've got different levels of membership, and you pay like £40 or £100 at the start of the year. That will then influence your availability to tickets that are released from season ticket holders. And as a £40 member, you pay slightly more than a £100 member when they are released, and they're released later to you, but you know where you stand, and you can, make the decision of which category of membership you choose to be in.
I guess you are sort of seeing that everywhere, right? Even your favorite whatever shopping brand, if you sign up to the mailing list, their membership now, and you get a discount and release dates before everything else. So it's kind of, maybe there's things that we can learn in the ticketing and sorry, in the more B2B type world of not just early bird, but membership pricing or whatever you want to call it, that's outside of associations. So maybe there's positive impact into how it can affect ticket sales across those sorts of events as well.
Do you know what? The cynical capitalist in me thinks this moment of bad taste will fall away the further you get away from it. So everyone is up in arms right now. So it's a big storm right now, and then by the time the gigs come around, everyone's forgotten that they've spent that, and we're talking like, there's So what we do in this industry is the experiential bit will hopefully be worth the money, and they'll look back and think, do you know what, all that pain I had to go through, I'm glad I did it, even though I got screwed over by Ticketmaster. I'd do it again because I had such a great experience at the event.
Mm.
So I think that's hopefully it'll all work out in the end.
It will
I,
be forgotten. And your question about affordability of live music, I can go to my local pub in Sturmiston Newton in Dorset and I can watch some local bands. There's a band called the Lego Men. They come down to Sturmiston Newton on a regular basis. They're absolutely amazing. I have a pint of ale, like a silly old man that I am, and I sit there and I listen to a three-piece band that play really good music. So that's the choice I'm making, not to spend 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 pounds, but for a pint of beer, sit there and enjoy a band that I like.
Or get in the Glastonbury queue for a ticket because I reckon they'll be headlining it this year.
also that, right?
And
That's-
you know that they seem to have got it right with the ballot of festival tickets and stuff like that. So and then you do know what you're paying.
I mean, I was thinking like both your comments there were great to end on, but I'm thinking, when you look at things like London Marathon, you sign up and there's, however many, 800,000, whatever it was, that sign up to go into the ballot and 40,000 get in or something like that. Can't you just do it like that and save everyone some stress? It's still
Yeah.
stressful if you're desperate to get in and you don't get in for 15 years, as some of my friends have not. Um, but it's kind of, can we just make life easy like that?
Well, I would love it. I've heard loads of old school. So we're the sort of age where, we were sort of 14, 15 when Oasis were really big and kicking about. So we are almost the perfect age for having spent our whole lives on fan clubs, following their music, following their solo careers and stuff like that. And I have heard a few people say it's a bit unfair that they're getting back together and there was no like assurances that the proper fans who'd always been fans and could prove it had a chance to actually get tickets, even if they could just about afford 150 quid because they're working class from Manchester. They're from the same places as the Gallaghers. So
But that's the band's responsibility, because if the band had like a real membership community that you could join and there was either an insignificant contribution or you purchased your albums direct from the band's website rather than buying them, or just listening to it on Spotify and downloading it from Spotify where the band makes no money. So if you were doing those things and you're part of that community, you'd get access to cheaper tickets, but people want to download it for free from Spotify. We've got friends in one of our chats who's selling his records direct, isn't he? It's flipping hard work to make money, because when you do it via Spotify, they get bugger all. So it's difficult for them to create buyer communities that they then can support, because you can get access to all this stuff so easily without having to, buy it quite often or be part of a community to benefit from it.
I think that's a great topic for a future edition of your event advice, the whole buyer communities and how they work. That could be quite interesting to pick up on. But I'm conscious of time and also the dynamic nature of the subscribe button growing on this. When people have watched it and more people watch it, the button will just get bigger and bigger. But it's just interesting. It's really interesting to discuss it and have a few different points of view with, Will from the product side, Matt from all of your experience across all the different types of events you've delivered and stuff. So thank you for inviting me on and starting to chat about it. And hopefully, with all of this demand pricing search going on this week, we'll see how that works in the algorithms with this interviews as well.
Well, I've just heard Will's just messaged me to say that when the subscriber list gets to 500, we're putting our pricing up 10%.
but this is actually behind a paywall. I thought this was behind a paywall. This video. Oh, no.
Nobody's buying into this, guys. Let's be brutally honest.
It's a nice try though. Nice try though.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah, thanks,
Yeah,
Mark.
thanks guys. Thanks for tuning in to Event Advice by Crowdcoms.